Hi, everyone. This is Amos with the Hollywood Critics Association. I'm here talking about the final half of the season of Ozark, which aired on Netflix, which is one of the most extraordinary shows you will ever see. And we are going to break down the entire season. Warning at the outset: we are going to reveal spoilers, which is why we're going to air it actually after the show has been on Netflix so that everybody has a chance to see it and you can get our take on. First of all, I want to start asking each of you, what did you make of the final half of the final season of Ozark? Did it live up to your expectations, exceed them, or miss them?
Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, definitely exceeded my expectations. I don't think I really had any expectations just because I knew it was going to be good. There's just there's just nothing wrong about this show. I mean, my only apprehension was what was going to happen. Who's going to survive? What the end result would be. But it was just we were just mentioning the fact that we really didn't even want to watch it until we absolutely had to because we just didn't want it to end. It's very it's just very satisfying, the whole thing. And some stuff I think I maybe guessed, but a lot of stuff I didn't. And it's just been a ride that's been one of the most enjoyable that I can think of in a while, as far as these types of shows. I know we keep talking about it being sort of equating it to Breaking Bad, but it really is. And I felt the same way about Breaking Bad too, and didn't want that to end either. So I'm hoping maybe if everyone loves it as much as we do, maybe they'll do a movie follow up or something. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is time to say goodbye to the birds, but it was hard. It was hard to say goodbye.
Um,
What about you, Rama?
to me, surprisingly enough, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I didn't hate it. I mean, I liked the finale or the final episodes, but I was kind of expecting more. Like we can do spoilers right here. So they're building uh, Marty up like he's some kind of Walter White or Heisenberg. They're like, oh, you can lead the cartel if you want to, but then Marty's indifference to everything. It just doesn't land that well, and they built Wendy up as this unhinged, wife that we gotta hate, because she's uncontrollable. But then it didn't end anywhere. So with her, at least that arc, and I was expecting either one of them to die off, but they didn't get killed off. So that kind of like made me think that maybe they should have, or Netflix should have just dropped all of the episodes all at once instead of dividing it into two parts, because now I kind of like the first part better than the second half. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my take on it.
That's a very good point, actually, because I think there's a flow there, and there's a break. And I'm a huge fan of Stranger Things, and I'm afraid that same things happen,
Yeah.
where you wrap it, and then you like 2 months off, and then you're like, oh, by the way, here's the ending you've been waiting for. You're like, oh, that's right, yeah, you had a show I liked. Um, but let's start with that first episode of the second part. I feel like this is full of qualification. Was titled "The Cousin of Death." That's a way to get your fans' attention. If you recall, this season 4 began with the birds in that horrible car crash where the car flipped like what 8, 10 times. This will be dealt with, but not in this episode. This is actually episode of highlights by Ruth's overwhelming desire for the revenge of the death of her cousin Wyatt.
Mhm.
And she is so consumed by it that she does something that is clearly in her because she did it, but something that she felt almost unquestionably pushed to do. Um, you just knew that this was going to hang over the rest of the season like an anvil. And I'd say it kind of did it. She's a very commanding character, but there was something about that scene where I would argue, I think she lost control. What were your impressions of that episode?
Well, I mean, it was very roller coastery because you think maybe she is gonna come to her senses, maybe, and not go through with what she wanted to do. You know, Certainly Marty wanted to keep her away from it. It's always the same. It's like he tries to protect her and tries to protect her, and she just doesn't listen to him. So her following them to Chicago, finding out where Javi was staying, and you know getting the gun and all of that kind of stuff, and you're thinking, well, maybe she's going to go through it, and then there's sort of these like flashes where you like in the trailer you see her walk right up to him and shoot him on the street, and you're like, really, they're showing that in the trailer? I mean, is that? And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, I bet she's just fantasizing or something, and I was right on that. So I actually thought she would be talked out of it, and it was such a great episode because, I mean, obviously Ruth had, like we've said all along, she's just been one of the best characters of all time, actually, in television, I think. And really, even though it is the bird, we do focus on the birds. It's equally as much her show as it is theirs, I think. And this particular last half of the series, shows a much more vulnerable Ruth than we've ever seen before. She's clearly in pain from this, and she's talking to her dead relative. She's talking to Wyatt. It's haunting her. She wants to be a better person, I think, after all of this. So the whole episode was just, is she gonna back down, kind of thing. And then meeting that rapper, I guess it was a rapper that she liked, and that was just so interesting to throw in there, right? I mean, the whole last half of the season she's listening to rap all the time. But just it's just a layer of her that we've never seen before. And so here comes the spoiler, guys. And so when she decides, well, when it happens, she breaks into Claire Shaw's office. She gets Marty and Wendy there with Claire. She's like, you call Javi right now, you tell him to come.
Mhm.
And there's no hemming or hawing. He walks right in, boom, she shoots him. I'm like, I was shocked. I mean, I guess I was waiting for it to happen, but at the same time, when it finally did happen, I was like, wow, that's just so. Yeah, so now
It has you thinking, a person can only take so much.
Yeah,
And my goodness, has Ruth been put through the ringer on this show?
she really has. She really
Yeah.
has. So yeah,
So, what do you think, Roma, of that particular?
I was blown away.
Well, here's the thing. By the way, to Kit's point, the rapper Killer Mike is one of my favorites. So I was geeking out, surprised seeing him there. That was a very, very pleasant surprise.
Nice.
And here's the thing. Am I happy that Javi dies in such a way? Yes, I am. But the thing is, how do I put this? There's no context or history between Ruth and Javi. For example, in the movie Gladiator, there are moments between Joaquin Phoenix and Russell Crowe. Even Russell Crowe says to him, like, death always smiles at us. We can only smile back. So there's always there's that buildup. There's that moment. There's history between them. There's that animosity. Ruth and Javi didn't really know each other. So I was like, yeah, it's cool that she killed them off. But then it's like, I wish they could have milked it a little bit more. It would have been more impactful if there had been some kind of a story there between them, in my opinion, as opposed to just like, bam, you're dead.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Javi,
Pure revenge.
to be honest, I think Javi kind of represented, though, her entire involvement with the cartels in different ways, right? So back
True.
when she was water tortured by Helen.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's always been on the fringe. She's never really met any of them, but at the same time, she's been affected by them the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of felt like, even though they didn't know each other, it was justifiable to me. I think she felt killing Javi was killing her entire involvement, basically,
Good
in
point.
this criminal cartels.
Yeah, it was a break for her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She could move on and let
Yes.
things go, or so
Yeah.
she thought.
Oh, yeah, I'm cheering for her.
Um, but it was definitely yeah, you're definitely cheering for her, but you thought she had it in her, but you kind of wondered if she would actually literally pull the trigger. Um, but there was no question. There was
Yeah.
absolutely no question when she marched in that room.
Mhm.
So episode 9 popped up, and it's called "Pick a God and Pray," and it's another perfect moniker because Wendy's father shows up and he throws a wrench into this entire thing, which I thought was fascinating given we really only have a couple episodes left. So you're introducing this character we've heard of through Wendy. He's played impeccably by John Boy himself, Richard Thomas. And he wants the Birds kids because he feels that their home is dangerous. Now, he's no angel either, as we've learned, with a history of alcohol and physical abuse.
Mhm.
uh, and it adds up to something that's not quite the best, but makes for very good drama. I'm going to start with Emma this time. What did you think of first of all the character of Wendy's father and how Richard Thomas played him, and general thoughts about the episode?
Oh, I think Richard did a splendid job playing that character, and I hate that character though. I guess that's a testament
Horrible
to
man.
yeah, that's a testament to Richard's performance. You know, when he can make you hate him, that's like,
Big
oh,
time.
that's a job well done. But yeah, that Wendy's dad is just I know I'm not a fan of his, and but then at the same time, if I put myself in his shoes, I kind of get where he's coming from as far as why he wanted Bird's kids, knowing the company around Birds, the Navarros and everybody. So I kind of get that, but still, the way he goes about it, his intentions, just not a very nice man. So, but Richard does a fantastic job playing that character.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
that I mean, we'll jump ahead a little bit with this character, but it wasn't so much, he comes to town with the well, under the auspices of trying to find the brother, right? So
That's true.
he doesn't know that Ben has been killed and whatnot, and he has this private investigator guy who we met in the first half of season 4, and he's hired him to try to help him find out what happened. Of course, it comes to light that Ben has been killed, but besides all that, the Nathan, the dad, he really, really, really is just an awful man and hates his daughter. He
Exactly.
hates Wendy. I mean, for whatever reason, through her, through Ben being mentally ill, and then Wendy being a rebel or being whatever, living her life and whatnot, he couldn't handle it. And so it's more about when he sees the situation and he's there and he sees the kids, he sees Jonah living in the hotel and he sees Charlotte. He thinks, oh, okay, here's a way I can get back at my daughter. I mean, that was the
Right.
end thing. He didn't care about those kids. He just wanted to hurt Wendy.
Well,
Mhm.
When we talk
and
about
it
the
was very
finale,
reveal.
I have a couple of quotes
Yeah,
that I just
in the finale. Yeah, in the finale, he said some things that we'll get to in a moment that really just piercingly tell you why he feels the way he does about Wendy.
yep.
Episode 10, not Who's the Boss, but You're the Boss is the name of this one. And this one had me kind of holding my breath. And the reason being is because Marty goes to the Mexican Navarro estate.
Mhm.
Rush is also scheming with Frank Jr., Ruth rather, is scheming with Frank Jr., and we get a new acting sheriff, which of course adds a wrinkle because they seem to develop a relationship, a rapport, and then there's a new sheriff or one gets killed, and can be in the world of the Birds. Um, there was just something about Marty in Mexico with the cartel, with all those heads and of their different parts of the cartel that hold all their I just was holding my breath because he's an accountant. I mean, at the end of the day, this is just like an accountant, and here he is speaking for a drug lord, and I just kept thinking this is not going to go well. Um, what did you all think?
Well, again, I think just to what Rama said at the beginning of this is that in his head he was thinking that Marty would become head of the cartel, and this was the scene, this was the episode that showed what he would be like, and he was handling it just like a business.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, I'm looking through the
Mhm.
numbers here. We got to do this. We should cut on that. Why are you're stealing money from this, and and that kind of thing. And he was trying to play the big guy, and I think he handled it pretty well. But clearly, it's not something he would want to do. I never thought he could do this. I mean, that he would want to do it. Not that he couldn't do it. He could. I just didn't. I really never felt that he would want to run the cartel like this. But of course, then we're introduced to Navarro's sister, Camilla, who's Javi's mother, and she comes off as you know sad about Javi, and more matronly and more motherly. But again, as we go on through this last half of the season, she becomes increasingly more menacing. But yeah, I mean, I thought, and of course, what Marty has to do to torture that guy to get the information out of him. It's just not his thing, he just can't do it. It's just, he can't, he does not have the disposition to do it. He could have handled the money thing. He could have made that thing run like, like mwah. But as far as being ruthless, it's just not Marty's thing.
Agreed. Because
that was very striking.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Joel. Go ahead.
No, that's it. Please, Rama.
Oh, sorry. Okay, just want to chime in real quick.
After you, my friend.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that assessment, Kit. And if you want to compare it to Walter White or Heisenberg, Walter White got his hands dirty. There are many times when he actually pulled the trigger himself.
Yeah.
Whereas Marty could not. And so I think he was playing cartel, but he couldn't be cartel. You know what I'm saying? So, and the tricky part about that arc in that episode, you guys, is that the question of the mystery of who stabbed or who ordered the stabbing of Omar. Until the end, and it was like, oh my God, I got an innocent man killed, tortured and killed. So, of course, in the cartel world, if you steal, you're still gonna die. but to him, it's like, no, like he just stole. Like he's not the one who ordered the stabbing or the attempt killing of Omar. It's his Omar's sister. Yeah. So that's also another layer of like, oh my God, what have I done? I was expecting him to kind of break down. Oh no, what have I done? But then I remember Marty doesn't do that. He's always indifferent. So that's as far as his emotional.
He internalizes.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he's always got his eye on the finish line.
Yes.
I think he is driven by the finish line. He's like, we are this close. We are this close. I mean, how many times did he say we are this close over 4 seasons? And
True.
I think he's just like, I am doing this till we get to the end, and then I never want to look back. I mean, that's just kind of the impression I get. Now, we can talk about Wendy. There's parts of Wendy I think rather enjoys what they're doing and thinks she would be very good at. And it hit something inside of her that she didn't know she had. So I don't know, maybe we can talk about that for a moment. I mean, the evolution of Wendy is one of the better character arcs. I mean, when you think about that first episode and where we are on that last episode, I don't know. She's come almost a different person.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my favorite. Well, the one scene where she and Marty really get into it in the car, right? And they're stuck in traffic or whatever. That's when Marty loses it. He finally loses it once. Jumps out of the car and beats the crap out of that guy. But it's all because of Wendy, Yes, I think that. Well, I don't want to jump ahead too much until we get to the finale, but I do have a very final note on the finale. But I feel like, if they were to run something like that, they would be a tag team situation. So he would be the business guy and she could be the ruthless person. I mean, I feel like They are that thing, and Wendy is just also very, very determined, um, and fiercely protective of her children, even though, this whole thing with her dad and her children, actually deciding that they're going to go with her grandfather at one point, which just throws her over the edge. For her, it's always been about the kids and how do we get out of this, and yes, there's I think she started to like it. She started liking the power. She's the power person. Oh, and you could clearly see that and how it grew. The more power she got, or the more power she could see that she could have, that made her who she became.
Well, in the later on, her friend coworker called her the Kingmaker.
Yes. This whole foundation thing, which is what is their out, right? It's their legitimacy. It's it's something this is all she can see in her head is making this foundation work so that however it works out, that they could get out of the criminality of things, or not get out of the criminality, but have this sort of shield of power and its prestige. And that's all who she's about, while Marty's more about, I feel like he's just one of those guys that, he fell into this. He didn't want to. It kind of fell in his lap, and he's always just playing catch up. He's like the hamster on the wheel. It's like, okay, if we do this and we do that and we do this, then we can get out. And if we do this and then we do that, and we're going to do it, So all he wants to do is get out, while she sort of grew into it and relished the power. That's how I saw it.
Now, I know, Joel, I
What do
remember
you
you
think,
said
Rama?
that. Yeah, I remember, Joel, you said that Laura was your friend back in the day. So if you get to meet her again, tell her I worship her. She's so amazing, amazing on these final episodes. Now, to add to what Kit said, and this is my observation of Wendy's arc in these final episodes. I'm not married. I don't have a wife, but I have parents. They're still together. So I observe over the years when my mom and dad would argue, and sometimes they would argue about how, hey, I thought we're supposed to be a team. Why are you going off, deciding things on your own? There's some moments when it was like that. And that's what it reminds me of when Wendy all of a sudden is not playing as a unit with Marty, as a couple. And Marty's like, what's going on? You're deciding things on your own. You're making decisions on your own. And then you could tell that Wendy is also thinking like, oh, Marty, my husband is just not, it's not, not ruthless enough. I want to be ruthless. Why is he not keeping up with me? Like as Kit said. So they're not a team in these final episodes, and that kind of reminds me of that.
Until the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, until the end. All right, episode 11. This is a very interesting title. It's called "Pound of Flesh and Still Kicking." And this, to me, it's almost like each episode creates a new hole in a dam that Marty has to stick his thumb in. And you're just like, wait a minute, this is the final season. I feel like we're trying to wrap things up, when it seems like each episode throws another anvil at his head. And this one is Ruth is making a play for the casino. And that's not going to go well with the Navarros or the Birds, because she has cleaned up her background charges from when she was under 18. So her name is now on the casino, and between the shares she inherited from Wyatt, and the shares she takes over the casino. So how the burden no launder. And meanwhile, Navarro's in prison needing money laundered. And it's just, again, it's an episode where you're like, how on earth is he going to get out of this? What do you think, Rama?
Yeah, as far as that episode goes, I don't know. I feel conflicted because I want to cheer for the Birds. I want to cheer for Ruth, and they're like on the opposite ends. It's like they're fighting each other, and I was like, I don't know. It was tough for me to decide which ones to root for. Definitely. Is that the same episode where Ruth's partner or friend almost got killed, and she got on top of the RV? Okay, yeah.
No, not quite yet. That's second to the last one.
Right. I'll have more opinions on that one. Go ahead, Kid.
No, well, basically, you guys forgot to mention the fact that we had a familiar face return, Rachel, who was the owner of
Rachel.
the Blue Cat.
Yeah.
So Ruth decides, she's going to go and get Rachel because,
Rachel, that's her name.
she sees the symbionts there between the two of them, and Rachel's living in Miami and just not really liking it all that much, and she definitely has a good sense of running a company or running a business, running a restaurant or whatever the case may be. So Ruth sees that opportunity, and brings Rachel in. To her name's actually the one that's on the. I think isn't that the case? Like, doesn't she put the casino in Rachel's name? I think that's what she does.
I think so, maybe.
Well, that was the plan. That was the plan, and that's why she approached her. But
Right.
then they were talking, and it came up that all her infringements were when she was under 18. Well, if you meet with the right lawyer, so she met with that power broker who hates the birds,
Right.
and he said that he would call a judge and clear her record. So she keeps her on as a friend and a cohort, and maybe even as a roommate, as we learn later. But she hands that piece of paper to Marty because Marty is like, "Yeah, whose name's on the license?" And she's like, "Me." And you're just like, "Oh no, Marty, what are you gonna do now?"
Yeah. So Ruth's next, modus operandi is to become legit, and she's also going to redo her whole lakeside, her trailer situation, and and use some of her money for her own, to pamper herself.
Yeah.
But the inclusion of Rachel is great. It's great to see her come back. Because she definitely got the short end of the deal back in the day with the birds. So, and you could kind of see that maybe had things not ended up the way they ended up, Rachel and Ruth may have had a thing together. I felt like they sort of kind of hinted towards some of that. Maybe, I don't know, or maybe it was just a great friendship. But yeah, Ruth is doing what she can do. Ruth's looking out for herself, man. And the fact that Bar's like, "Oh, we got to keep laundering money," and Ruth's like, "Nope, we're not going to do it." Again, here's another problem. Marty has to figure it out.
Yeah. And to add to that, just a real quick, I really feel for Marty, in that dynamics of him and Ruth in these final episodes, because
Yeah.
I think Marty deep down thinks of Ruth as his protege, all those years. And I was like, oh my God, he's like, why are you doing this? And even when Ruth was trying to kill Javi, Marty's like, please don't do this. He really cares for Ruth, no matter how much Ruth's trying to like up him in a way. But it's like, no, come on, let's remember that we used to be like, in a way, he's feeling sad for Ruth. He's feeling like, come on, let's be on the same page again, So I feel for Marty about that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's hard. He's kind of literally between a rock and a hard place. Episode 12 is called Trouble the Water. What?
I was just saying he cares for it. He always has.
Definitely.
Yeah. Which later, again, this is a spoiler, and we'll talk about more later. But when he confronts Ruth about his kids, and she's like, "Is that you talking or Wendy?" That's the very first time that he's actually done anything like that to Ruth, and I thought that moment was very shocking because he pointed at himself, like, "This is all me," and look what happened. Ruth took care of it. So episode 12, Trouble in the Water. Wendy cracks an idea to cozy up to Navarro's sister and starts to say, now we're starting to formulate this idea that as all those holes in the dam are filling and Marty is running around manically trying to control it while still keeping his eye on the prize, she hatches a plan where she thinks this is it. This is the end game. And that's by making Navarro's sister the head of the cartel with the blessing of the FBI. And this is all the episode where things get really ramped up with her father and the kids and the courtroom battles. So there's a whole lot of emotion in this particular episode, and I'm eager to hear what both of you think.
Go ahead, Rami, you can start.
See, this is the episode where the court decides that, right? That, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very emotionally charged episode, and to your point, watching these final episodes, I kind of like wonder in the back of my head also. I know this is just a fictional show, but could the government actually do that? Like, sanction like cartel, legal, like like an unnecessary evil sort of a plan. I was like, okay, maybe, but that's just in the back of my head. But yeah, it's a very emotional charged episode, and it shows how, like you said, I think earlier, how Wendy, I think when the court decides that or when the kids decide that they want to go with the grandpa, I think that's where Wendy was just like, she just lost it. She's like, no, like, I know Wendy has done a lot of terrible things, especially to her brother, but I think that's the point where she's like, I can be more evil, and you watch me, and this is it.
Well, the breakdown though, when she begs her father on the court steps, I mean, that broke my heart.
Yeah.
Broke my heart, and she's obviously, like I said, she's still a mother, and these kids mean everything to her, and the fact that she can't stop this this forward momentum with her father, and the kids feel like maybe they should leave because it's their mothers. They're not, what they've seen, what she can do and has done, and it's hard on them, and they figure maybe they should leave. But the thing with Navarro's sister is, obviously she's a mother too. Again, we've talked about family a lot with this show, all the different iterations that is. And Camilla is, trying to figure out how Javi died. So the birds tell her that Navarro had him killed because he was trying to, take over and that kind of thing. And she believes that at first. So that's why she does the attempt on Navarro's life. And here the birds know this. And they're, Marty wants to tell Navarro, and Wendy's like, no, let's do the opposite. Let's get close to Camilla. And, I think she's the better bet for us to maybe get out of this through, by getting rid of Navarro and that kind of thing. So I think it's a smart play for, to do that. But still, Camilla is still a very formidable, situation. And when she finally does find out the truth, it's not going to be good if she finds out the truth, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, she really is something else. And we've talked about the evolution. And in that moment when it's just like, I can't see how we can convince her. And Wendy, with 150% assured with herself, she's like, I'll get her. She knew that she could talk her into it. And she just knew from mother to mother. And it's just, I thought that was an interesting way to go.
Yeah.
I just want to add in that it goes to show that I am more comfortable playing chess than playing people off against each other. Like, I know Wendy's playing out at three-dimensional chess or something. Like, if I play the sister against Omar, we can get out of this way. It's like, I can't think 2-3 steps ahead like that. And that's a dangerous game to play, with people. I'd rather stick with chess.
Yeah.
I'm with you there, buddy. I'm with you there. I just bought my daughter a chess set. She can't get enough, and I couldn't be prouder. So episode 13, we're creeping towards the end. I knew you'd appreciate that, Rama. Yes. Omar is there's a line he says. He's like, Marty, I am officially impatient. And then again, you're thinking, oh my goodness, Marty, what is Marty gonna do? And meanwhile, Wendy's already pushed to the edge. She's checked herself into a behavioral therapy place. And so now this entire thing that is supposedly close to the finish line is left in Marty's lap. But if anybody's good at juggling, as 4 seasons have shown, it's him, whether he wants to do it or not. But it's just, again, you like, you can see the ending coming. It's the second to the last episode. But at the same time, they brilliantly have written it. So it could go any number of ways. When you finish that second to last episode, Um, what were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Wendy's checking herself into that place. That was also brilliantly done. Having basically just forcing them to take her in. She goes, "If you don't take me in, I'm going to go kill my father." And I really feel like she would have. They said no. She would have go kill that asshole.
Yeah.
Um, but she's like, "I'm going to stay
So
in
give
here
her a
until
clipboard.
yeah, I'm going to stay. Give me that clipboard. I'm coming." Um, her saying, "I'm going to stay in here until I get my kids back," was kind of a smart move on her part because, I mean, just that whole evolution from losing them in the court and banging her head against in the car, and she just bleeding, and I'm like, wow, she's really becoming unhinged and rightfully so. And then you've got Marty trying to just keep juggling everything and trying to convince Ruth to do the laundering and all this kind of stuff. And then you've got Navarro's henchman Nelson, who's coming after Ruth. And this is like, here we go. This is Rama brought it up earlier. He comes, to kill Ruth, but Rachel's there because Rachel's waiting for Ruth to come back. And Ruth knows. How does Ruth know? That's the thing. I didn't know. How did she realize that he was?
That's a good question. How did she know?
She doesn't. It's raining. I can't remember. She goes to the police station for what? I forgot what she went to the police station for
Was it a
something.
hunch?
What?
She
Was it
wanted to talk to the sheriff.
Oh,
She wanted
right,
to spill her beans to the sheriff. She admitted to killing Javi. She admitted to this, and
right.
basically, she said, if you repeat this anywhere else, I'll deny it. But I think you're going to be a good sheriff, and you need to know this. And you can take down those billboards because that sheriff dead. And then when she
Oh,
comes out and the guy that was following her is gone, she knows exactly that he's going to her compound, and he's probably
Oh,
waiting for her. But what he's going to find is gal.
yeah. So Rachel. So
So
she gets a hold of Rachel. She said Rachel
Rachel.
gets the gun. Blah blah blah. And Rachel kills Nelson. You're like, oh God, how that's. I love Marty's reaction. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He goes, "What, you've
He's
created
like,
another
is she in the
problem? You
bottom of your
always
pool?
create problems."
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
how he just knows. Like there could have been a million places where she ditched the body, but he just knew her. He's
Yep.
like,
He goes,
is that
"Is
guy in the
Nelson in the
bottom of your
bottom of that?
pool?
It's Nelson. Did you bury Nelson in the bottom of your pool?" She just stands there, looks at him.
You know,
God damn it. She says, "Ruth."
and that's like the most
yeah.
mafia thing ever. Asphalt burying. That's mafia way. So I was like, when that. So it's like it's obvious, like, oh, he's in the bottom of your pool, and I gotta say, before I get to the Nelson part, it was this show. I'm sorry, not the movie. This show was initially about money laundering. So it's tough to remember that it's about money laundering now that it has evolved into cartel versus birds. So it's nice that these final episodes kind of remind us, like, oh, there's money laundering. Actually, it's part of the DNA of this show. Let's
Yeah.
bring that back just for a few episodes. But yeah, that Nelson scene with Rachel, because I think prior to that, Nelson put a gun to Rachel's head, right? Because
Yep.
of like, you gotta do money laundering again for us. So yeah, that scene was very pins and needles, man. I was like, oh my God, he's gonna get to her, and then of course Ruth like kind of like, no, you go up to the get a gun, whatnot. But that whole sequence also makes me realize that Nelson is not very stealthy as a as a hitman. He's not. It's like, really, you got yourself exposed. I get it. It's dark outside, but still, you got to be able to anticipate. Like you're a pro, man. And he's like coming out of the car. It's like a walking, sitting duck. Like, of course you can get a clean
Look.
shot. It was just like, really, you're tough all these
Oh,
seasons.
look, a trailer park. I wonder what's here.
Well, it was raining.
That too. It's raining. Yeah, I guess it's
What,
raining.
I couldn't
what strikes
see.
about him too, that strikes me too, is that you mentioned how he got in the back seat of her car and he threatened her, and that was a direct order, Wendy. And that's how
Yeah.
far we've come. Like you talk about Walter White pulling the trigger. Now, she didn't pull the trigger, obviously, and he didn't either. But he would have, and would have been at her request. So she
Yeah.
might as well have pulled the trigger. And I just thought that was a moment where Wendy not went over the edge, but where she embraced the darker side of herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Sure.
mean, you knew when she went to the car, you're like, there's somebody in the back seat,
Exactly.
you just
Oh
felt
yeah.
like it. Well, all right. Well, I got a couple of closing questions. Let's talk about that final episode, the last one, the last time we will ever see the birds on Netflix or anywhere else. It's called A Hard Way to Go. Um, they make their final bid for freedom. It's not exactly what they expected, but it is what it is. As I mentioned, they had that car accident, and we get to see the result of that. And somehow they all get out. And I felt like that car accident scene was really powerful because, again, we brought up the subject of family. And despite everything that's going on, despite the whole business with the grandfather, despite everything with Wendy and Marty and the trouble they're in, there was a love between that family after the accident that is
Yeah.
undeniable. And that takes me to the very first episode where they were like, we are a family. This is not going to break us up, and we are going to make it through it. Now, what kind of feelings did you get from finally figuring out what's going to happen after that spectacular car crash?
Well, the
Rama, you
first
could start.
point. Oh, I was
Oh.
gonna.
It's okay. I'll make it short. The whole thing with the car crash, I gotta be honest with you guys. I was a little disappointed. It was very uneventful. I was hoping like maybe Navarro's men would go in a car chase and speed hit the side of the car, and that's how the car crash happened. Nothing. It was nothing like that at all. But I get it. The whole family thing, I totally get it, and I kind of knew or had a feeling that what's going to happen to Ruth was going to happen. It was like, of course, she shines brighter than most of the other characters. Of course, they're going to make her a martyr, or martyr, I should say. It was nicely done, but still, I would have loved it if either Wendy or Marty also got killed off. But this is my opinion.
See, I disagree. I thought this whole last episode just, kind of brought everybody in different points, brought them together. So you had, the first scene is Marty going to Ruth and saying, "Did you bury Nelson?" She's like, "Don't talk about it." He goes, "You have to help me get my kids back, and if you don't help me get my kids back, then I'm going to tell Camilla that you were the one who killed Javi." So, again, like we talked about, Marty threatening Ruth for the very first time ever, was just not his thing. So she thought it was Wendy. And then she goes to see Wendy in the mental, or in the rehab place or whatever, psychiatric place. And that scene I thought was beautiful because, they've always been at odds with each other. Marty's always been the one who loves Ruth, but Wendy's never really loved Ruth. Ruth knew that. But the two of them sort of coming to terms with each other, both saying goodbye and also saying thank you, saying they were sorry for certain things that they have did,
Mm-hmm.
But when the kids, when the kids come to, so then Ruth going to the grandfather, Nathan, and basically just showing his true colors all over the place. I didn't think she was going to pull out a gun. I thought she was going to pull out a tape recorder, and then play the tape for the kids. But I think pulling out the gun and threatening him to tell the truth was brilliant. And then the kids go to see Wendy, and you're like, okay, they aren't quite there yet. That's why the car crash was very important for them to reconnect as a family. And I agree with you, Rama. The way they built it up,
Yeah.
it felt like somebody should have died, and and even though they don't, it was definitely a very pivotal moment because that is when they're finally back together.
For a while.
And I think not only are they back together, but they're going to be back together forever. I mean, this was sort of for whatever it was, like a come to Jesus moment for them as a family.
I
So
think
that's
I
why
think if I just chime in real quick, I think I guess I was hoping for, a machine gun popping out of the trunk moment. You know what I'm saying? Like something just like out of the left corner or whatever, curveball, whatever you want to call it. Like the machine gun popping out of the trunk and kill everybody. The white supremacists. A Breaking Bad reference again. I was hoping for that machine gun, but nothing. There's no machine gun.
but it was okay for me. I didn't want either. I didn't want anybody to die. I mean, even Ruth. I thought maybe because up to this point, but she's just as scrappy as Marty. She's gotten away with everything. She's been able to outsmart everybody. She's been one step ahead of everything, And she finally
That's why I actually wanted to
she
real
finally
quick.
lets
Oh,
her
sorry.
guard down. She finally lets her guard down. Is what's happened.
That's why I'm so pissed at Ruth. Because if I were Ruth, with all that money that I have, I would have been gone. Like not out of state, but out of country.
That's not who she is, though. The Ozarks are who she is. She couldn't leave there. I love that scene where she comes out and her whole, her dad, her uncles, her cousins, everyone's there. That's
true.
You get a glimpse of what her life was kind of like. I mean, even though they were all criminals and not very nice people, they definitely had bonding moments themselves. And then, talking to Wyatt, and then the cousin 3 comes up and says, "Who are you talking to?" And he goes, "You're talking to Wyatt?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm talking to Wyatt." It's just very sweet. Like I said, I felt like this whole last half showed a very vulnerable and moving parts to Ruth, and it really touched me. But then, of course,
and I wanted to bring up the moment on the bell during the party where the pharmaceutical executive tells Navarro's sister exactly what happened.
Claire,
and you're just like, oh, I think Ruth's time is kind of numbered here.
Oh my God!
You're just like, why did you say something? Why did you say something? You were
she had
this
to.
close. And then
she got scared.
She had to. Well, and then the face of Marty and Wendy was priceless. I mean, they acted. They said so much, so little. That moment, I think, will really stand out for me in this when I think back on this show of how it just kind of turned on that corner and then it was a race to finish. The other thing I wanted to bring up about this last episode and how the show, and they always say, wow, the show ended with a bang. Well, this show literally ended with a bang. And it's the idea that PI, Mel Statham. Now, what do you think? What do you think, you guys? What drives him? And is he the mom of the show? Because he gets everything he wanted. He wanted his job back at Chicago PD, but yet there he is sitting on the picnic bench just as the birds are getting ready to get out of town and finally be free, holding that goat. That goat is the brother. What do you think drives him, and why can't he just let that go?
I just feel like he was he had a moral compass too, and he just couldn't let them get away with it. I mean, that was what I'm trying to say. Is here's my hot take on the whole idea of him saying, you can't get it. You don't get to have everything. You don't get to have this. You don't get to have that. That's just not how the way the world works. And then Wendy says, she says, what does she say? Since when? That's her. That's right. The last thing she says. Since when doesn't the world work like that? So my hot take on the end of it is that the birds really are a crime family now, and that they are. That's their kids are in it. Jonah's the one who shoots him, or he comes out and he looked very calm. It's like
he shot that gun before.
Yeah.
And it's just it's this is how we work now. And maybe this will be the last time they have to do anything like this. Maybe they'll go to Chicago and live normal lives again. I don't know. I want to think that maybe they'll continue being, ruthless like this. Who knows? But it just showed me that they are the crime family.
Yeah, I totally agree with the description being them being a crime family. Kind of like, because throughout these final episodes, the kids wanted to go with the grandpa, and they're like blaming their mom, and they don't like their mom. But then that last moment, it's kind of like, how Michael Corleone in Godfather 1 didn't want to join the family business, but then he's like, okay, now kiss my ring. Everybody's settled now. Michael's now part of the crime. So that's the moment that kind of hit me. But to the point about the PI, I think he's like a dog with a bone, man. And he's not my favorite character, but I kind of respect that he, the way he investigates, and he's really getting to the the nitty, like really turning every stone. He may have a cocaine or heroin problem, that got him fired. But he's a pretty damn good detective. You know what I'm saying? He's a pretty good investigator.
Damn good detective.
Exactly. So he just he wanted to crack this wide open, like any investigator would. A dog with a bone.
You didn't want them to get away with it.
Yeah, like Jesse.
You want them to get away with it.
Yeah, Jesse Pinkman, I think in Breaking Bad, it's like, he can't get away with this. He can't keep getting away with this. Remember that when he was crying about Walter White keeps getting away with it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought there was a real parallel. There was a real parallel with, oh my God, I'm blanking. The name of the son.
Jonah.
The bird's son. Jonah, thank you. The way that Jonah, I saw a special on saying goodbye to the house that Netflix put out, and they were talking about how that house was a character and it's such an anchor and such a beautiful place to shoot. They referred to the scene where he shoots out the windows because he feels like he's in a prison, and how different that is from shooting out windows trying to be free to being the person who shoots the guy standing in the way of them being able to do what they want. And that's another good character arc for Jonah, I thought, as well. That was a nice pair of bookends in terms of use of that gun.
Yep.
Here's the doozy of the question. We'll start with the doozy.
Mm-hmm.
One makes a big deal about season finales and their resonance. And Seinfeld was Sopranos, what was that? St. Elsewhere, it's an autistic boy with a snow globe. I know it's fresh in your minds. We've all just seen it. What do you make of the Ozark final episode? Was it where does it go down in television history in terms of finales?
The thing is, with Breaking Bad, again, I'm sorry I keep referring to Breaking Bad, but when Walter White got killed off, and then Jesse Pinkman ran away with cars, like I find that satisfying. And then when it comes to The Sopranos, of course, that's the most ambiguous ending ever. It's like, did they get shot up in that restaurant or not? Well, what are we waiting to see here? But we don't get to see it. And here, it's not ambiguous, but it's kind of clear cut. As far as to like Kit said, like where the kids stand. As far as their parents go. So I don't know. The word satisfying would be the one I would use to describe it. But at least there's no. There's no questioning about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't. It doesn't leave me like, oh, what's gonna happen? Can we see that? Like, how come they don't let me see that? Nothing like that. Nothing like that at all.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it was very.
It did its.
Joel, you talking?
Yeah, I know. I was just saying. You think it did its job at the least?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
I think it was the look on everyone's faces when Jonah came out with the gun. So, so here they are. What do you want? We can give you money, and all this. And he says, you can't have everything. And she's like, since when? And then you hear the, you hear the cocking of the shotgun. And then, you pull back and there's Charlotte, and she's got a very determined look on her face. There's Jonah, and he's doing this. And then you see Wendy and you see Wendy and Marty, and they're both like, this is who we are now.
Yeah.
We are the crime family. I mean, that's literally how I saw it. Their little mini cartel right there.
The birds.
The birds.
All right. Well, quick questions for you to close out our show here. It may be hard to pick one, but what would you say over these seasons? What was the most shocking moment? The
Hands
most
down.
shocking moment.
Oh, hands down. Helen got shot. That
Oh,
was.
yeah.
I even like got taken back. I was sitting in my seat watching that. So, oh, holy crap! How the hell did that? It's like that was very jaw dropping in my opinion. Nothing. There's a lot of shocking moments in throughout 4 seasons, but that was like that took the cake. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I totally agree with you, Ram. I'm on board with that one. Absolutely. That one just blew me away. Literally blew me away. I was like, and they're like standing there, like, oh my God. I didn't see that coming.
Me neither.
Nope.
No, they're covered in brains and all that. And
Oh,
here they are at the cartel's house. And it's like, what do we do? And I never in a million years would have thought that he would have taken out Helen. I mean, Helen was his gal. Like it just, I'm with you there. We were 3 for 3. That was to me the most shocking moment in the entire series.
Yeah.
Was when Helen left us very unceremoniously. Now, in your opinion, or maybe what you would like to happen, what do you think happened to the birds after that final gunshot and the fade to black?
go ahead, kid.
Well, I think I already kind of said. I think they go back to Chicago.
Oh,
They run the foundation. I think they just try to go back to normal again. Who knows what will come up in their path? Maybe something new will show them, present itself to Marty, and they have to get out of something again. Maybe the FBI, maybe Camilla, Navarro, maybe actually her name wasn't Navarro, her last name was something else.
Right.
Something might pop up their ugly heads, but I think they're going to go back to Chicago and try to go back to the way they were.
I'm curious
And
to
what do you think,
see.
Rama?
I'm curious to see whether or not they're gonna do something about the aftermath of Ruth's death. I don't know about paying for a funeral, whatever. It's like there's got to be some. You can't just leave to Chicago. There's got to be some sort of some feelings towards what happened to Ruth there. That I want to see that at least. But that's just my opinion.
I don't know. I think
And
Ruth, it's very symbolic that she was wearing white too. Didn't you think?
That's true.
With the blood and the blood seeping through the white dress like that. And I love how she goes, "Are you gonna fucking do it?"
yeah. That's how she would have gone out.
How she went out.
Now, we may just have answered this question, but who do you think was the show's MVP?
Oh.
I mean, like I said, I feel like I don't know. It's so tough because everyone was so good. I swear to God, if Laura Linney doesn't, I know it's always such a crapshoot with these kinds of shows, but I honestly feel like she deserves the Emmy this time around for this, But I always thought Robin Wright in House of Cards should have gotten an Emmy. She never did. But I really let me just say this. I think the women of the show are the MVPs. All of them.
Oh, fair, good. Good answer.
Wendy,
what do you think? Hard to top that, Rama, but what do you think?
No, I agreed. Even what's the name of the lady got killed by Javi with Wyatt? Even she.
Oh God. Why am I blanking?
Me too. I can't remember her name. But even she was
such a.
Yeah. I totally agree. The women here on this show shine the brightest, most definitely. Yes. Not to take away from Jason Bateman, very, very calm. I'm like, I wish I could, my wish for this new year. I know we're already halfway through it.
Darlene.
I'm sorry, Darlene. There you go.
Darlene.
I wish that I could be cool under pressure as Marty is. I wish I had that cool under pressure thing that he does. He makes it so like everything, all these stress, everything come attacking him from everywhere. The Navarros, the feds, and he's just like sailing through it, man. It's just I don't know how he does it. So, but yeah, the women definitely shine the brightest on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
And now, lastly, in a minute or two that we have left, Jason Bateman is directed for, as we all know, he helmed the movie Bad Words. I think we all did the junket on that one.
Yeah.
And he directed the final episode, and there was a whole lot to digest with this final episode. How do you think he did?
He's a brilliant director. I think he's very good. He has a great sense, and obviously, this was a definite passion project on his end. I just saw him talking on I guess it's a little on Jimmy Fallon. Initially he wasn't even going to be in it. He was just going to direct it, all of them. And I guess it got to the point where they decided, that he should be in it too. So then he didn't direct as many as he wanted to. But yeah, he's a great director. And clearly, I want him to keep doing. I want him to do some comedies next because I love me some funny Jason. So, but he's proven himself to be quite a talent.
Yeah, definitely.
Rama, your thoughts, please.
I agree with Kid. I definitely want to watch or rewatch Game Night movie again.
I just rewatched it. It's so funny.
Right?
God.
It's so good. Because I miss that Jason Bateman. I miss that Jason Bateman. I mean, as much as I admire this Jason Bateman on Ozark. And to your point, I watched Barry new episodes the other day, Barry HBO show, and Bill Hader directed some of the episodes, and I was like, and Jason Bateman did so well with Ozark as well. I mean, like, man, these actors, man, they really know how to direct, and then they know the characters really well. To heart because they've been with these characters for years or for seasons. So yeah, definitely. I think he got Emmy, right? He won Emmy for directing Ozark, right?
I think he did. Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Yes, he did.
So he's gonna get nominated or at least win one more time, in my opinion.
Yep.
Now it's really, really hard to tell, but in the history of television, where do you think Ozark will rank not necessarily rank in terms of number, but are we talking top 50, top 30, top 100? What do you think?
That's a tough one because to me, and that's not a joke. To me, The Sopranos is the number one greatest television show ever. So it's tough, if it's gonna be like in top 5 up there. But I would say probably maybe top 15. That's the most generous I could give Ozark because there's Everybody Loves Raymond and Quantum Leap and all these other guys that would put above everything else.
Yeah,
exactly. The A-team. But Ozark probably would sneak in there in the top 15 to me. At least.
It might be in my top 10. Because actually, I think Breaking Bad might be my most favorite.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. It's if we talk about different genres too, of all time, it's tough, but certainly it's in my top 10. I think Ozark.
And
I'm going to split the difference. It's definitely 10 to 15 for me because I think Breaking Bad, Sopranos are 1 and 2, but I'm not sure which one is 1 and which one is 2. And I rather like Better Call Saul too, which I haven't.
I mean, Better Call Saul. That's more in my top 15.
Right. Yeah. So it's hard to say because it's so.
There's just so much. I know. Sopranos is definitely in my
Severance
top.
just ended, and there's
oh
just
my God,
there's so much. Well,
okay, we have to we have to compartmentalize these things because it's like, okay, so crime, you've got sci-fi, you've got it's tough.
Comedy.
I gotta say,
it's hard.
I just want to chime in real quick. That it's a testament also to because we all know that Netflix is as a streaming service platform or the platform in general it's a love-hate relationship that we have with Netflix. Bittersweet because Netflix will give us like 10 shows per week and then would cancel. They would cancel like 9. Out of that 10, it's like not a lot of shows would stay beyond 1 or 2 seasons. Then there's so many of them, right? Every week there's new shows on Netflix. So for something like Ozark to just appear and then stay strong and then become an award worthy, for that show, for one show, Ozark to stand out among all the gazillion shows on Netflix, that's impressive, at least in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah, and we are absolutely living in. Some people say it's the platinum era of television. I think it's the titanium era
Mm.
of television. I mean, it's just that good.
Yeah.
Well, this has just been a thrill chatting with you guys. We'll have to find another show to dissect in the future because I think we are a titanic trio if there ever was one. Another reminder to keep with Hollywood Critics Association here. We have got lots of shows, all kinds, to keep you entertained, up to date, and informed and entertained as well. So, on behalf of Kit, on behalf of Rama, this is Joel Amos signing off, just like Ozark did. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. All right. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Kid.